Maybe we'll get our faces in the thing. Hey, we are live here with Earth2 Comicast, and we're going to be talking about all the big Star Wars announcements, and I'm trying to figure out how to put our beautiful faces into this.
You got to bring me into the show. Can you hear me? You got to bring me into the show.
Are you not in the show?
Oh, never mind. It says I'm in the show now. Sorry, people. We're old and technology scares us.
So. I know, but we can't. I don't know how to get us into the thing. I'm gonna try all of this fancy new stuff that Mo has.
I know, right? All the beautiful buttons. Well, we just look at Rosario Dawson. Did you see Rosario Dawson got?
I figured it out.
Oh, look at that!
Hey! Oh, yeah. All right, cool.
I see look at that beautiful face every morning, people.
Oh,
I miss those days.
Well, we have like so much to cover with talking about Star Wars. First of all, like, did you expect? Like, I think we had heard some murmurs about like this investor meeting, but I don't know. I don't think of investor meeting as like, I don't know, Comic-Con or something. Like, did you expect this much content coming out?
No, I did not. I knew that usually they try to get the investors to like cream in their pants a little bit about the possibilities. So, I mean, but a lot of things they'll say in these investors, the few outliers, they might not actually manifest, but you want to get the investors excited. But this was like a whole presentation for not just the investors, but for us, I think. You know,
yeah, it was almost like we were being used. Our excitement was probably good for them, for the investors.
They left like $20 on the nightstand, crept out in the morning.
The best way to make the investors happy is like have fans and Twitter. I heard Twitter crashed at one point. There was so much tweeting going on. So
this is what I think is that people remember when comic book movies started happening, people were like, oh, the fans, the comic fans don't really mean anything. You know, like 10% of the movie going population. But it's us, like the fans of these materials, that hype up. That you're like remember like when Marvel movies started coming out, you were probably the person for a couple of your friends that didn't know about this stuff to be like, hey,
I dragged like 10 people to Iron Man 1 who were like, I've never heard of Iron Man. I don't know why I'm seeing this movie. This is dumb. I'm just gonna go because you're my friend, kind of thing. And then afterwards they were like, Iron Man is amazing.
Unless you had a mega popular cartoon in the 90s about your IP. People didn't know who you are, and Iron Man had a good cartoon in the 90s, or the second,
decent, yeah.
But that I am Iron Man. But people didn't know who he was, and even if you did know who he was like a C to B list hero at that point in the 90s. The 90s were all about Spider-Man and the X-Men. So if you weren't a mutant, it's just how it is.
Yeah.
So to get us excited, because only we really tuned in, and then it spreads out throughout the social medias and be like, oh, look,
exactly.
This thing. Oh.
I was following it mostly on Twitter, and you could actually see it happening. You could see like the hardcore fan Twitter accounts like posting the thing as soon as it hit. And then you kind of watched it like almost like when you throw a pebble in a lake or whatever and you see the ripples, it would hit like a little bit more like nerdy media, and then like the more mainstream media, you can just like see it like spread out. And then they like make another announcement. And so it was like, like all the like hardcore comic book websites, they were like giving live updates. And then like, I don't know, New York Times or something would be like 30 minutes behind, like talking about like, oh yeah. So
Mo was calling me on our chat. I don't know. Is he called?
Figured it out. No, I'm trying to call.
We're live now, Mo.
We're live now, Mo. We figured it out. I was asking him about our lack of faces in the video.
Now he's calling somebody else. I don't know what Mo's doing.
All right. Yeah, we figured it out. Anyways, cool. So I was just going to run down each of these and kind of what we know, but there may be, I looked at a few articles, but there may be even more stuff that you know about that I missed or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much strong rumors, pretty much.
There's a lot. It's almost hard to disentangle the rumors from what we do know, because a lot of stuff coming from different Twitter accounts, like even official, like some of the producers and directors and writers are like tweeting out like little tidbits. It's like a Easter egg hunt, right, for information about all these shows. So anyways, the first one I wanted to start with is one that we probably know the most about, and that is Bad Batch. Especially for a couple of reasons. Number one, we got to kind of meet the Bad Batch in the last season of Clone Wars, and also they had a full trailer for Bad Batch, so it gave us a real clear idea of where we're going with that show. What do you think about that?
Dave Filoni loves Bad Batch. Like, he figures this is the A-team of the Star Wars universe.
He just loves A-team in general. Like,
yeah,
how many
does.
Mandalorian episodes you're like, this is essentially an A-team episode in space.
Right. So you can tell he's of our era. A lot of Clone Wars fans didn't think that Bad Batch worked. I'm one of them. I thought they were just kind of misfitted into the Clone Wars narrative the times they showed up.
Do you think they didn't work in the context of Clone Wars, though? I kind of feel like maybe if Bad Batch had shown up earlier in Clone Wars and we were used to them, but there was so much weight on this last season of Clone Wars.
Right. And then a lot of deep cut fans, though, also wanted they weren't Delta, but the Clone Commandos, the squad unit from the game, and they only showed up. They had a brief cameo in one of the episodes, and I want to say the 5th or 6th season. So a lot of people wanted them to come up. But I also know people that are really excited of their more cartoonish. I know it's weird to say in a cartoon, but more cartoonish personalities and things like that. So I mean,
they're more exaggerated. Their personalities are like all extremes.
Well, you got the big, strong, dumb one. You got the it's like a lot of tropes, and that's not saying you can't work with a Rambo and a I don't want to say Mr. T, but you know that trope of the big, strong, dumb guy on the team, and and things like that, and then the smart tech guy, and so they got their party.
It really is A-team.
Yeah, they got their party members, and I'm not calling you dumb, Mr. T, just in case you might hear this, and I still think you might be able to knock me out. So don't say I'm calling you dumb.
Mr. T not dumb. He has the same. Doesn't he have the same shtick? Because on A-Team, Mr. T refused to fly, and wasn't there a thing where that guy didn't like to fly too?
Oh, it was something that he didn't like. Oh, you're right. You're right. Oh, man.
Because remember on the A-Team, they always had to drug Mr. T to get him on an airplane.
It was one of their gimmicks.
Exactly.
Which one of the things where I think was very unappreciated about the updated movie they did, like maybe 10 years ago, is they gave a reason for that he was fine with flying. He was actually a paratrooper until he flew with Murdoch. I freaking love that. I love that. But yeah, it's a lot of the same stick. So, and I'm coming from a perspective of, I've watched all the A-Team, but if you're when the Clone Wars started, so if you started watching the Clone Wars when you were like 15 years old and you're coming up, you probably don't know the A-Team like that.
Oh, no.
So
everything that's old is new again.
Right. So everything comes around again. So maybe it's just not my perspective. But Dave Filoni has crafted. I didn't think Anakin's having an apprentice out of nowhere was going to work, and he wrote a character that slowly won me and a lot of other fans that were skeptical about this over. So who knows?
Yep.
And I think in the trailer I actually saw a Clone Commando, so there's still hope for us deep cut people that want to see those Clone Commandos show up.
Well, I mean, if there's one thing that's true about Filoni, it's like he loves to just randomly put the thing in that makes the fans freak out, right? Mm-hmm. Some people don't like that or are getting kind of frustrated with that. They feel like that's happening too much. But for some of us, that's super fun. If it's done right, I like it. And
if it's still entertaining, and I know we've had, and I think they're valid complaints that if you don't know these characters from 20, 40, 10 years of history before, like in other mediums besides live action, you might be kind of lost. But I think that it's a really good plan to bring people like me back in to enjoy these things, right? Because I'm one of the people that the sequels really turned me off for I pretty much thought that I was done with this, and I didn't really and so deep cuts like that make me feel like I'm included again into the Star Wars community. For sure.
Yeah, I think if Easter eggs are done right, they don't matter to the plot, but they're fun to be there, right? And that way both people are kind of happy. Cool. So that's Bad Batch. The next one I wanted to talk about was was a pretty big surprise for me was Andor, which is all about Cassian Andor, the kind of agent dude from Rogue One.
Yeah.
And we saw like a quick clip, not that quick actually, a pretty long sizzle reel.
It was the longest one they had, really, of anything that was.
Yeah, of like what they're doing. And I hadn't even heard anything about this. Diego Luna is returning, so that's key. He seemed really, I mean, you never know. It's all hype and spin, but it seemed like he was genuinely excited to like return. So that's cool. That's always helpful if somebody wants to be there. So,
well, they started mentioning this pretty much as soon as Rogue One dropped, which was how many ever years ago at this point. It wasn't that long ago, but it seems like a long ago. It was because it was between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, right? When Rogue One dropped.
Yep.
So they had mentioned this almost as soon as the Rogue One dropped, that they were doing a show for that. What I have forgot is the droid was going to be back, because the droid was a standout character of that.
Oh yeah, of course,
of that movie. Yeah. So thinking, and he was Alec Tudyk. I love him in Firefly.
Yeah, K2SO and Alan Tudyk is the voice, of course, from Firefly. So
yeah, and everything he's in, he's golden.
And he has a huge fan base too, like not like, but like a cult fan base that just follows him to everything. So
I was surprised he wasn't in the trailer at all, right?
Yeah,
but it could be a Chewbacca Han Solo thing where you get to see how they meet and become partners, right?
It's true. It's also, it seemed like it was really early in things, and he's probably a lot of special effects. So they probably, the worst thing they could have done is like shown a really bad digital rendering of that droid, and then the fans be like, it looks horrible, right?
No, we don't want to show that at an investor meeting. But I mean, apparently the creators or Kathleen Kennedy or whoever really liked that character or that actor, because they have mentioned this for years at this point. And so I know he was happy to finally come to fruition. Again, this is probably going to be for the time period of 10. You're not going to get Force users. You're not going to get some of the more famous characters, sounds like Mon Mothma or anybody that's really, you might, if they decide to recast Princess Leia.
This feels like it could be a Mandalorian type show, but in a different time period where we're kind of bouncing around from place to place.
Right, and they got the guy from the director for the Bourne Identity stuff to do this show. So
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're gonna get a good spy feel, and actually that was one of the best things about Rogue One, is that you got to see a little dirty, like an underside of the rebellion, which is what you're gonna have to do. And there's a lot of characters you could farm from Legends 2 in this era, because remember, like when we were growing up, everybody that showed up in a movie had an action figure. Like everybody that. There's stories written about like everybody in there. So you have Mon Mothma, you have people from Rebels you can bring in during this time period. You have, you can bring he played he was in Rogue One, but he had the breathing thing at the time. He stayed on the planet for some weird reason and got blown up.
Saw Gerrera?
Saw Gerrera. You can bring him in during this time. There's a lot of people. You bring in Boba Fett if you want it. Like there's a lot you could do to show the other side without. And I think if they get this right, without having to rely on any kind of safety for the Force and all that stuff, they can spin off into a lot of things. Because even the Mandalorian still gave us Force stuff, even though they focused on other things.
It's getting more Force stuff. I'm glad that they're not. That's for the Mandalorian reviews, but I'm glad they have kind of kept things somewhat distanced with Force stuff, especially now. We'll get to this. There's other shows coming that are more suited to delve deeper into the Force. All right, so the next one is Lando, and we don't know much at all about this. All we know is that we don't even know if Billy Dee or Donald Glover or maybe a third person is going to play Lando. Right. Billy Dee did voice Lando in the Christmas special, so that kind of stuck out to me.
Did he?
Yeah, and so he was like the only person who actually like voiced their. I don't think there was a single other person. Well, I think maybe the normal guy who does Anakin for Clone Wars did Anakin for that, but outside of that, like Billy Dee was like
Mark Hamill back. I don't know. We've been talking too much. They didn't ask Mark Hamill back. They didn't ask the guy to play Finn back. They didn't ask. Was Daisy Ridley there?
No. And that's honestly, I think one of the worst parts about that Christmas special is the Rey voice is like horrible in my opinion.
Wow, there's plenty of things wrong with that Christmas special. Oh.
So we don't know who's going to play Lando, but it's directed by Justin Simeon, who directed Dear White People. So it sounds like it's going to be a little bit more.
Yeah, did they get a black guy for the black character in Star Wars to I mean, I don't know. I don't want to take anything from them.
There could be. I mean, that might be a positive. I don't know.
Might be a positive. I don't even know if it's animated or not, but I'm guessing it's live action.
I believe it is animated. I'm pretty sure it's animated. So, which is why
his voice, because he did the voice and he did his own voice for Rebels
and that's why I think it might be him. Is maybe he just was like he saw everybody else getting a show and he's like, "Where's mine?"
Hey man, cash it in. Is Billy D's like in his 80s now or something like that, right?
Yeah. I think this is a good way. We saw this in Star Trek with they're doing that Janeway show where Janeway like Kate Mulgrew is going to be voicing younger Janeway. It's a good way to take those older actors and let them play their younger self. I think is doing animated stuff.
Yeah, even in Lower Decks, Q showed up and it was like, oh, I was put a smile on my face. And Family Guy's been doing it for years. Anytime he makes a sci-fi reference, he gets the Seth MacFarlane gets the original cast. He said in an interview once, like they said, "Why do you spend all that money to get the original cast? You get just get like 3 seconds." He's like, "Because I want to see all my heroes in the same room."
It's an excuse,
right?
So, anyways. Lando, we just don't know a lot about, but if it is animated, and especially if Billy D comes back, but actually even if Donald Glover does it, it'll be really, really good. I mean, I don't even know what Donald Glover is doing right now, but I love
everything.
So.
He's doing everything.
He's doing everything. Yeah. Right.
I mean, I feel like this. I feel like about Lando is the same thing I felt about Han Solo. Like, is there a point? Like, is there something in his story? Because I don't want to know when you started wearing capes. I don't want to know when you met Lobot or anything like that. I don't. Give me an actual story. Like, I don't know where every little bit of things we know about you comes from. You know what I mean? He did have a series of books, like a trilogy of books back in the day. And I want to say I read them because I read all Star Wars novels at that point. So I want to say I read one, and they weren't bad. It's just, I like Lando as a character, but do I want to follow him for a season? And I think they made it seem like it was going to be a mini series. So if you're stating a good story, and honestly, I think they started a story in Han Solo that they can't finish now in theaters, and so
I hope so.
Yeah, maybe
Kira is like one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. So
you said what?
Kira is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. So
maybe they can, because he has a connection with her, and we know Han Solo goes and does other stuff. So maybe the story continues. You know what I mean? That's something they can keep in mind. That.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then next we have talking about making sure there's a story. We don't know much about this, but what we do know I think is interesting is a droid story, which is going to be animated following C-3PO and R2-D2. But what's interesting is specifically they're supposed to be guiding all we know is they're guiding a new hero. And we don't know who that new hero is. We don't know anything else. But somehow they are linked up with a character that it seems pretty clear we've never met before in Star Wars, and they're helping out that character. It sounds like, I mean, I assume original people are back or whatever, but
yeah. So we don't even know what time period this takes in, but we can only assume that they've kind of steered clear of the sequel trilogy. Whether they support it or not, I think they realize it's divisive at this point. So
if there was something though, like again, referencing a little bit the Christmas story, like if they wanted to do something with Finn Jedi, this could be the way to do it. Then he wouldn't be a new hero, but he's kind of a hero on a new path.
Yeah.
So
I think I was going to say that I think any of the ones they explore are probably going to be animated when they go to that time period, if they do it. The thing is, since the prequels, because before the prequels, it was kind of like loose canon that C-3PO and R2 have been going around for like 100 years before he met up with Luke and them. Like they had a whole bunch of owners and adventures, and they even remember that old droid cartoon back in the 80s or whatever. Droids. Yeah. All those supposed to take place before.
I mean, I couldn't tell you what the plot of any of those cartoons were, but I remember the cartoon.
I couldn't, and I've learned it's best not to go back and watch old stuff that was entertained you as a kid.
Yeah.
But there's a long stretch, and I mean, it could even be after Return of the Jedi. We don't know what happened. I mean, even though they kind of shrunk. I'm gonna stop crapping on the sequels, but like even though they shrunk the universe some with killing all the Jedi again and all this other stuff, like there's still 30 years that we don't know about. And if the wishful thinking that they're gonna like rewrite stuff, it's great to bring these droids back because it was really weird. Like I'm not a person that says they need to be in every movie because of tradition, right? Like they didn't need to be in Rogue One. It was fine that they were in Rogue One, but they don't need to be in Rogue One. But for the main saga, they are the narrators. They are the people who see everything. And it was really weird in the sequel that you got rid of them, especially R2, who's seen everything.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that when we get to the sequel trilogy, like the First Order is like way out in the middle of the nowhere galaxy and like seen by the New Republic as not important at all. Like it's not till Starkiller goes off. So I think that does leave a lot of time where like if they're not seen as important, that means other things must be happening that they do see as important, right?
Right.
And so maybe we could fill in that time period. But the one thing I would say is if any of these shows could move past the sequel trilogy, I think this probably is the one.
This and one other maybe, but yeah.
Okay, one other. All right, so we'll get to that in a second. So then the next one I had on the list was, and this one's really interesting, is Visions, which is it's coming to Disney Plus in 2021, so next year. And all they said is some of the world's best anime creators of all time are coming and making shorts set in the Star Wars universe. And we don't know anything else but that, but I know that there's been a hunger for this. There's even like a dude who does a bunch of like Star Wars anime looking stuff on YouTube. I know there's been a hunger for this for a while. So I keep thinking this kind of reminds me. I mean, we were living together at this time. Remember Animatrix? Yeah. And just kind of having a bunch of anime creators make their own little shorts set in the universe of the Matrix. That's what this kind of reminds me of.
So yeah, I think the same thing, and I think that they've had a lot of success with a Galaxy of Adventures. I don't know if you know what that is. It's on YouTube. It's like animated shorts that they use the original voice recordings from scenes, but they have animators animate them in like more dynamic kinetic styles, and they basically stuck to the prequels and OT. They've done some sequel stuff.
I have seen those. Yep.
Yeah. And they've been really good. They've been really interesting, especially when you want to explain to kids, like, oh, look at this clip explains who this is, and you get to see all the Han Solo moments and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, and if you get them in there, and if you get really good anime directors and people's famous and people who be not into anime that much, there's a huge. I mean, it's not like when we were kids, but it's like a huge following behind it. You get them. And you get their art style and the connect fighting and things like that they can do. I think you'll have a product that a lot of people will enjoy, even who aren't Star Wars fans. And you might make them.
Yeah, you may even create some new Star Wars fans by hitting different, because there may be people who are, if it truly is like some of the world's greatest anime creators, content creators, there are people who follow those people, right? They follow those creators, and so they might jump into this world because they're following that person, not because of Star Wars.
And look at Love, Robot, Sex, the Netflix thing. That's an anthology. I messed up the name just now, but I think you know what I'm talking about. It's like an animated anthology.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that? It started
Love, Death and Robots.
Yeah. It's funny that started as the creative team behind that started trying to get the rights to do another heavy metal series, which is like anthology from the 70s,
back
80s.
in the day.
Yeah. So and those rights or something fell through, so they ended up making that show, which is really good, hugely popular. I think there's not there's some stories that are better than others, but it's not really a weak story in there. But if you like or trend to certain things, that's what you want. And there's such a rich history with Star Wars and legends and stuff like that might never get a movie, but you could adapt to an animated series.
There's a lot of things. I think the Star Trek shorts have shown us this too. Like there's a lot of things that work better as a short.
Yes.
And they feel padded and just not nearly as good when they aren't a short. So there's a lot of potential here.
And it's a good way to test out characters and materials and settings and see what worked and what didn't work. So it's a smart idea for Disney. And if you're trying to get into more of those Asian markets, it's a good idea to get this in too.
Yep.
So
right.
Whoever thought of that, smart thinking.
Any guesses on maybe some people you would like to see directing any of these? Is there anybody you'd be like, please let this?
I don't want to mess up anybody's name, and I mess up Japanese a lot. So,
How about
but I would say the creators behind Samurai Shampoo, Cowboy Bebop stuff that would come to mind to me. I'd love to see something like that.
Yeah, if they hit some like kind of retro anime creators, there's a lot of overlap between Star Wars fans and people who loved classic anime, and so that would be huge.
Jedis are based in samurai culture, are taken from Jedi samurai culture, so they have some of the greatest samurai culture animators and sword fight animators and like animated choreography in the world do it. I mean, where else would you go besides that pool of talent?
Absolutely.
And you can go cutesy, you can go hardcore. There's a lot you could do. You could do dog fights. You could heck, you could do a mech battle if you want.
That's the great thing about a short is everyone can just be a completely different genre, different thing. So yeah, it's great. All right, so the next one I got on the list, there's so many, like it's crazy. It feels like we haven't even gotten to some of the biggest stuff yet, and there's so much we already covered. So the next thing is Acolyte, which is coming to Disney Plus. It's set in the High Republic era. It's directed by Leslie Headland, who did Russian Doll. I have not seen Russian Doll, so
I have not.
I know that it's like it's got a lot of like intrigue and suspense, right? So it's that kind of mystery, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of thing.
Not noir.
Suspenseful
drama?
Mystery, whatever.
Suspense thriller type stuff.
Suspense thriller, yep, exactly. And it seems like it's going to really explore the Sith side of things. And that's what we know, but there's a few real key things here. Number one, first time dealing with Sith from a main character standpoint, right?
In mainstream live action, yes. And
first time dealing with the High Republic era, which is that new era they're launching, correct?
That nobody was really excited about, yes.
I'm excited about it.
You were, but Patrick, they made that stupid ass announcement. It did not trend like they wanted. Nobody cared, and they're going to try to force it down. Because again, I think this is.
I'm surprised by your reaction to this because I don't know a bigger fan of Knights of the Old Republic than you.
I'm a fan of the Old Republic. I'm a fan of the Old Republic.
A period of time similar to Old Republic where it's so far they can put it in such a time period that it doesn't have to be directed.
This is the problem. This is the problem. The same problem with Ben and Ray, right? They don't have, if Dave Filoni's not behind it, they mine from these source materials, right? They water down these concepts and then they regurgitate it in some kind of new weird packaging. And it doesn't work the same because you've taken away from it. So where Ben is a combination of Ben Skywalker and Jason Solo, and Rey's Jana Solo, and you try to do all these other things, and there's already a story there. It's kind of like where when they came out and Kathleen Kennedy came out and said there was no source materials to mine from like Marvel, and it's like, what do you mean? And I don't even think it was her. I think there's probably a directive above her that said you don't use these things because whatever the contract when they bought the place or whatever, bought the stuff. But you have a popular trilogy that does the same thing, that talks about Darth Bane and his I forget her name, but female disciple. It's just late. I usually know her name. Darth Xana or whatever. Anyway, you have that story that is pretty much what I think they're going to try to do here. And instead of just taking that story and adapting it for mainstream people, you're going to try to create this whole new High Republic thing and all this other stuff. And again, I'm going based on what they said for that High Republic trailer. What do the Jedi fear? Space Vikings. So, can it be good? Yes. Do I think it's going to be a watered down Bane trilogy?
I think there's a good chance. What do you think about this? I think there's a good chance this could be like mature rated or pretty close to mature rated compared to everything else. Like this could be where they like lean more into that.
I think they will. I think that's going to be the draw of it. I think my other fear is that depending who's running it, if they have the same philosophy of the sequels, that means that the dark side and the light side don't really have a philosophy, and there's no real philosophy difference between the Sith and the. There's just black hats and white hats, and there's nothing really.
I mean, kind of always has been just black.
Well, no, it has been. But there's been more of a philosophy behind how you access the Force and what that means, and they threw around. Sith and Jedi, like there was nothing behind it. You just claim a name, you know. Yeah. So to do that, and even in the Knights Republic games, right? When you played as a dark sider going through the their training and all this other stuff, like it meant a lot. There was a lot of philosophy behind that, right. And hopefully they'll get into it. Hopefully they'll give us some meat and don't just give us the cotton candy.
Well, I think this is one of the shows where they, and I don't know that they will, but they'll have the freedom to really lean into all that Force kind of explanation. Like, just there's a segment of the fan base that loves learning more about the Force, seeing new Force powers, seeing how the Force works. I agree, they might not do it well, but this is a show. One of the things I've been concerned about with Mandalorian is that just isn't the show for that sort of thing to happen in. And so this is one of the shows where I think they could lean into that more. And we may, I mean, if it's High Republic, maybe the way that the Force was used and understood, and even the relationship Sith had with Jedi, we don't know anything about it yet. So
you're right. So this is where just one of those things where we kind of hope for the best.
Yep.
I'm just not. People go like, "Ooh, Darksider show." Well, I mean, I kind of feel like the Sith won in the sequel, so like,
I mean, actually, almost all of Star Wars is the Darksiders being in power. So,
I mean, they won the prequels pretty much, and then the original series is like, all right, yeah, good guys, and then those good guys died failure. No, so I
mean, all right. So, after Acolyte, we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, and this is also coming to Disney Plus. Filming starts this March. Ewan McGregor, we already knew was going to be in it, but the big announcement was that Hayden Christensen was coming back as Darth Vader, which tells us two things. Number one, exactly when it's set. So it's set like in Rebels era, probably before New Hope, after Revenge of the Sith. And then it also tells us that, I mean, Vader is going to be probably a pretty major character as...
Well, they said the rematch of the century is one of their taglines, which there's room to play with that. I mean, there's
that line in New Hope where he's like, last time we met, I was the
apprentice and you were the
master. So it'll be interesting if they meet again, because Obi-Wan still needs to essentially be the master when they meet again.
And we're in the same thought. That's the line that always sticks with me, because then we know if it takes place in Rebels timeline, then his or 10 years before Rebels, I guess. So yeah. 10 years. So it's they're gonna have to do it really well. And I'd be more interested in just seeing them cat and mouse from a distance almost, and actually cross lightsabers again. I don't really need to see that.
There's a lot of potential. Ewan McGregor is a really good actor, in my opinion.
And he's wanted to do this for a while.
For a while. So I think there's a lot of potential. What we haven't seen, and maybe Star Wars wasn't ready yet to deal with this, and maybe now it's reaching a level where it is. We haven't really seen Obi-Wan deal with the trauma of what happens there. Like, literally everything he knows is wiped out. And that's devastating. And we haven't seen him kind of walk the path from where he's left at the end of Revenge of the Sith to where we find him at the end of New Hope. So I think there's a lot of interesting character development there for us to see.
I could also see that this could be where we see the Jedi being hunted down, the remnants of the Jedi being hunted down. I think it will be. And we got to kind of hint to that in Rebels, like, where's Kenobi? Tell me where Kenobi is, like things like that. And so a lot of action. There's a lot you could do with the Inquisitors, the six brothers and 60. We know there's more Inquisitors out there. There's and even oh man, but actress that played Buffy, She voiced one of the
Yeah.
Inquisitors. So you could bring her into this era. There's a lot of people you could bring into this, and there's a lot of
right?
huh. Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah, I'm a big Buffy. I can't remember her name. It's late, people. I'm trying my best.
We're all two different Ghosts fans, so we have to meet in the middle. Early for me, late for him.
So I think there's a lot you could do in this era. I'm not necessarily. I don't know if I want to see them cross lightsabers again, like multiple times throughout this series. It has to be something built up, and I kind of almost just want a mini series. Like I don't need like 4 seasons of this. I need like a mini series, unless they got the story for it. Unless they have the story for it.
I think that's an interesting idea where we kind of see Obi-Wan. What's the word for that? Like a tactical retreat, right? Trying to do what he can as Vader is hunting all the remaining Jedi down and killing them, and so there's a lot of potential.
A compelling reason for him to leave Tatooine because his whole goal at this point is to guard Luke.
Yeah,
and so we really need. And again, there's many things you can bring in there. Like you can bring, depending on what he did in the Cassian Andor series, there's a lot of different things you could thread together. You could make this the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Star Wars, where you're threading these different things together.
It's just going to take a lot of. So I think all of us agree, even Kyle, who's on Earth 2 a lot, has come around to this idea that the biggest issue with the sequel trilogy is there wasn't an overarching plan. And so if they learned from that, then there's a lot of potential here. If they didn't learn from that, then that's how this is all going to go sideways. Because now you have, as hard as it was to have those 3 movies in sequential order work together as one whole plan, that's small ball compared to having all these different shows taking place in different time periods with different kinds of characters. Like you're going to have a plan. Or this just isn't going to work.
The Star Wars story group to actually do its job, not just not force round pegs into square holes, but to like, hey, no, during this time period, so and so is over here because we just put this in this, so this can't work. They can't be in the same spot unless we, you know what I mean? Like we need somebody that actually has. We need a Bible for
exactly. Like I read a lot of Warhammer novels, and they actually gather all the authors for like specifically the Horus Heresy era novels together every so often, and they all just sit in a room with a whiteboard brainstorming what their plots are going to be and how they're going to connect. You essentially need to do that for this. You almost need to get all the different creators in one room for some meetings and whiteboard this stuff out to figure out how it's all going to connect.
And do the tape across room with the timelines and where they're at. And Ahsoka's over here during this time, and so-and-so's over here this time. And just because you can do it, but if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. And even fans that don't know all the lore, you can, when you're reading a story that has no mythos, when you read a story that has no mythos or no backing, and it's something you can just tell something's off. Like you don't know what it is, but wait, what?
And that's an advantage of having those different people in the room too, is like it's impossible for everybody to know everything about Star Wars at this point, right?
Right.
And so having multiple people in a room, one person might catch a thing that another person doesn't catch, or even have an idea for somebody. So hopefully something like that is going on. The next thing, I think this was a pretty big surprise. I didn't hear anything about this beforehand, was Rogue Squadron is getting a movie. So this is the only announcement I think we got that was not Disney Plus, being directed by Patty Jenkins, who of course directed Wonder Woman. And all we really know is the tagline is that it's a new generation of starfighters, which may indicate it's not the Rogue Squadron we know from the books.
So this is actually the other one I think they'd be set in this time period of the sequels. It could be, or just before them.
Yeah.
I know it was a shame that like in the expanded Legends, Wedge is a big deal. Like in the movies, you hear his name.
Yeah,
and
totally.
He survives through all this stuff. But the Rogue Squadron books are pretty much Wedge's and his team.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of stories you can mine from that. And of course you can't get Wedge back, he's older now. So getting a new generation or his daughter, which I'm sure it'll be, or anything like that.
Right.
Like, you could do that. And they also really did you see her explain what Rogue Squadron was? That was a really touching thing about her personal past.
I didn't hear that. Can you go
So
into
they
that?
show Patty Jenkins rollerblading on an airfield, and there's like jets and stuff like that. And she's going to her car, and she's discussing that her dad was a fighter pilot in the Air Force, and one of her earliest memories was seeing him take off with his squadron and all this stuff. And that was her thrilling moment, and she loved speed after that. And then he died. I don't know the story of how he died, but said he died serving his country, and she always wanted to make a fighter pilot movie. And she never saw the right script or anything like that. So she wanted to bring that to Rogue Squadron. I didn't know anything about that past. I am not faulting them for using her past passion for that, because I'm not going to question. You know what I mean?
Sounds legit. Sounds legit.
What she
wanted to do.
Right, and so she really has a passion for it, and she understands fighter pilots. That could be
Could be really good.
If you want to understand a soldier or a fighter, talk to the kids. You know what I mean? Talk to, you know what I mean? Like
they know what's going on under the hood.
Right. So if you get them and you can idealize them and put that idealization on a screen.
Yep. Yeah. So they could, I assume Poe probably would come back. Greg Grunberg, his character died, right, in the third movie. Who's the guy from Heroes? Remember, who was a pilot? I think he died.
Yeah, he died, right?
So it's probably just going to be all new people, if whatever era it's in. But I think it'll be great. I think this is something, a certain segment of Star Wars. There's a certain segment of Star Wars fans that is as passionate about X-Wings and flyboy kind of stuff in Star Wars as people are excited about lightsabers and the Force and all that kind of thing. And those people really have only gotten video games. There's great video games, but they haven't really gotten a lot of like other kind of attention. And so I think this could be really cool.
I think that you're right. There's people who fell in love with the dogfighting just as much as they fell in love with the
I do hope the dogfighting is way more interesting than the lightsaber fights.
Yeah, there's no that. And I would say Return of the Jedi, the centerpiece, the masterpiece is that massive space battle, right?
I agree.
And or even Han Solo and Empire flying through the asteroid field. That was some stuff. And that was probably the best part of the simulators that came out. The first games we had indoctrinated was the simulators for Star Wars games, was TIE Fighter, X-Wing, things like that. And I remember when I was, I lived in multiple homes when I was a kid. One of the homes I stayed in was Jehovah's Witnesses, and they didn't like the Force stuff, but they had copies of only the dog fights in Star Wars that edited the things. And they were all about that, and who doesn't? There's always a part of us that would love to be a pilot and fly and
X-Wing versus TIE Fighter is like that game. Like I owned a flight stick for that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I loved flying around in a TIE Fighter, TIE Interceptor to be specific. But
so if you can get that level of interest and that aspect of it, you can make a creating show. And I think they've tested out what they could do in The Mandalorian with some of their ship-to-ship combat scenes and how dynamic they can be.
So this isn't a show, though. I believe this is a feature film.
Oh, is it? I thought this was a show. This is a feature film.
No, it's a feature film coming to theater. This is like the one announcement that we got. There was a feature film coming to theaters.
Not you can definitely do it. You can definitely do it. Just don't like remake Top Gun. Yeah, that's the only thing. Don't remake anything. There's plenty of stuff to mine and have it. And you could set it in any era. I would even say Rogue One. One of the best things was that dogfight.
Sure.
And Star Wars. It's not about the Force. There's the people on the ground, the grunts, the ship command, the fleet battles, the one-on-one dogfights. So I think this might be the one sequel era, if it is, that could attract me to see it if the trailer catches me.
Yeah, well, it kind of avoids a lot of the things you didn't like about the sequel era, just directly by what it is. So
and no light speed skipping thing crap they did.
Yeah. None of that. So the next one is this is I'm not sure it's supposed to be on this list, but they announced a new Willow show, and Willow
it's Lucasfilm.
Show up in The Phantom Menace as a character.
Who does?
Willow shows up as a character in
I
Phantom
know
Menace.
he showed up, but is it supposed to be Willow?
Yeah, he's like in the same clothing as Willow's
Oh,
clothing.
I didn't know that.
So,
Well,
and I think he may even be credited as Willow in the like credits. So
well, I mean, the ET aliens show up and the credit is ET aliens. So, well, that kind of blows my mind, but you know.
So Willow is a movie that like takes place on like a fantasy world with like monsters and stuff like that. But that's if no spaceships ever land on your planet, that the Prime
Directive
it could
be an off the wall Ewok like planet somewhere in the Star Wars universe that no one's landed on, and Matt Mardigan could have had the Force. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't know where they're going with that. I just put it on the list because Willow is in fact in Star Wars canon, so potentially there could be even like I don't think they'll really connect it to Star Wars, but there could be like mild Easter eggs right through it.
C-3PO and R2-D2 show up in hieroglyphics in Indiana Jones. Like there's a lot. There's one that's there was this comic book series that was called Star Wars Tales, and it showed like Indiana Jones kind of in the Star Wars universe. And one scene, like he found like the remnants of the galactic era, like it's our past. So he found like crashed ships or whatever, and a message from.
That's from the new Indiana Jones, right?
Oh yeah,
I haven't watched that, and everybody.
No. It was a comic. It was a comic.
Oh, it was a comic. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, but it was, but it all could. We don't. You never know. And if would it be funny though if they did recast Luke and he showed his adventures and he landed on the Widow's planet to learn some Force stuff? It was like, oh, y'all got this type of. All right, well, go. You wouldn't know.
Or like if Luke showed up in the Willow show as like Luke and he just didn't use any like laser blasters or anything, and he just. There's like one of my favorite Green Arrow comics, like nobody wears costume, and like Hal Jordan shows up all the time, but he doesn't use any of his powers and he's out of suit. So it just like, he just seems normal. It just fits. Right. So cool.
Landed on a planet to learn how to be a wizard from their force power down there.
Wizard, exactly.
And then all of a sudden he just disappears. See a flash of light in the background one time.
Oh my gosh. If that happened, there are so many people that would be so angry, and I might actually just enjoy it.
So Willow was George Lucas's answer to Lord of the Rings, I guess, in movie form, is what I remember reading at some point.
There were a lot of those kind of weird fantasy movies and the pre Lord of the Rings fantasy movies, right?
Well, even there was the Lord of the Rings animated movies that came out by that one guy and so Willow did not do well commercially. I remember it being one of the few movies I actually saw as a kid, like that weren't bootlegged. And
I don't remember anything from that movie. I just remember they like sled down a hill or something like that.
Oh no, I wasn't exposed to any fantasy stuff where I was. So Willow like just it blew my mind, like swordsmanship and all of this stuff. Now I tried to watch it a couple years ago with my daughter, and there are some clear directing issues or editing and pacing issues with that movie as an adult. But I still love the character, and the actor has put in his work as a face in Star Wars conventions and stuff for decades at this point. So what was his name?
Warwick Davis. I remember there was that little teaser trailer they did where he was waiting to get the like phone call for the new Star Wars movies. He's like, he saw all the other cast members getting that phone call and he hadn't gotten it.
Yeah.
That was a funny little, anyways.
He put in his work. So
right, fair enough. So anyways, it could have, I would say it could have Star Wars Easter eggs in it. That's all I would say.
And this is a series, right?
Yeah, it's a series.
Yeah.
All right. So then we get to the stuff I think we're most excited to talk about. I would say this first one maybe less so, but still it's, we know it's Filoni and Favreau, and so that is Rangers of the New Republic. Another Disney Plus show in the vein of Mandalorian, in the era of Mandalorian, with Favreau and Filoni both working on it. And we don't actually know who this show is about. There is a chance it's about Cara Dune, although her actress has gotten into a lot of trouble for tweeting stuff, and I don't know if she went full MAGA or not. I can't remember, but she's kind of like not the most popular person.
Bebop as her identifying now because she didn't want to do the he she did.
Gotcha.
So she made a choice, and then people attacked her, and then she attacked back. But it's kind of like, so I mean, she didn't say anything to attack anybody. She just didn't participate in the noun thing that people want to do. And instead of having a conversation, both sides blew up and attacked each other, right?
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying the initial thing was right or wrong, but what I am saying is, one, there's no point in arguing with Twitter, right? There's no point in arguing with social media. But also, when people attack,
that goes for her too. She probably should have just not engaged, right?
Right. But people also did attack her, and when you throw out labels on people without having conversations with people.
Also, she's like a former UFC fighter, right, or something like that. That's a certain personality that when that personality is attacked, they don't just take
back.
it.
Punch back. So, but I think she's a fan favorite at this point from the show. She's one of the names. They've set her up to be something. I think that the Marshall thing, Rangers thing, is probably something that's going to lead into that. I think. That's the guy that was the Starship, the X-wing fighter that came to talk to her.
Yeah. The guy he's so awesome because he's from that comedy show. Kim's Convenience.
And I was rewatching.
And he's a huge Star Wars fan.
I was rewatching Alienation, and he's in that movie too.
Really?
I meant to send it to y'all.
I don't know all the details, but apparently he's a big Star Wars cosplayer and like super into Star Wars. I don't know how he ended up in Mandalorian, but there's got to be he probably like sent some emails, some back channel stuff, and was like, "Hey man, here are pictures of me in like Star Wars cosplay. Please let me be in an episode of Mandalorian." Yeah. And I mean, it would be super cool if he now gets to be in this. That would be really cool. So,
well, they seeded him through this season, right? And even the thing is, there's things going out here. They don't believe me. We need to. So they've set it up. They set it up so those two can go off and form their own kind of like strike team or investigating team. And if they're still doing the new orders, the first order stuff, which I hope they don't, like that's what they could lead into. Discovering that and everything like that. Even though it still means they ended in failure, but.
Yeah, you can have some Leia connections here if they start. That's really interesting that they become like the ones who are first figuring out what's going on. Like you can just imagine them flying out somewhere in the Outer Rim and suddenly they just like find a bunch of Star Destroyers or whatever hanging out.
The big question for all these shows in this era is, do you recast the big three? I mean, they've already done Han Solo, but do you recast Luke? A lot of people are going for the guy that plays the Winter Soldier to do him because apparently it looks a lot like him when he's young. And even Mark Hamill signed off on this apparently.
Yeah.
But Mark Hamill's also alive, so then you have to recast Carrie Fisher, and I'm not against it at this point because I want to see these characters get their shine. So, but you got to be really careful and really. I
think if Mark Hamill gives blessing, like really gives blessing, because we now know that there were a lot of things he had issue with the sequel trilogy, right? Which it's like I know that he probably signed some things so he couldn't say anything, but that something about that is also I think what's wrong with that trilogy. Like when Mark Hamill himself didn't like the direction they were taking the character that he is. I mean, he's had to live with being Luke his whole life. His voice should have mattered, right? Like
he should have had some way in.
They kind of told better and worse. Like we know that the reason Mark Hamill went into voice acting is because he literally could not get another job.
He was the most iconic hero character for 30 years almost.
Yeah.
Right. It's really disturbing. I don't think Filoni and Favreau would have did that to Luke.
Yeah.
And they definitely, I don't think they would have did that to disrespect Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was more of how Disney does things to. I don't even say that. I heard someone
we'll get to this at the end, but I think a big question here is, have they learned lessons? And I think that's going to be a big question that will get answered more fully by all of this content, right? Have they learned lessons from the sequel trilogy? Okay. What were we going to say?
I think they have, because before Boba Fett showed up in Mandalorian, there were a lot of legit media sites that were like, why Boba Fett doesn't matter and why 10 reasons why Boba Fett's not a real Mandalorian. Then he shows up in Mandalorian and now it looks like they want to put some backing behind them. Now all those same places have changed to, oh, this is why Boba Fett's a big deal type of thing, and this is why Boba Fett.
They worked hard to get the actual actor of Jango Fett, the clone dude.
Yeah.
So like they put the work in too.
And that PR machine turns to right now it's glorifying Boba Fett. Right now, before it was Boba Fett didn't matter. Focus on Mandalorian. Now it's this is why he's a big deal, right? The PR machine before was Rey matters, Luke doesn't matter. Luke doesn't matter. Luke didn't And I think that if they flip that switch where Luke matters, they'll bring a lot of people who are like me back into Star Wars.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because now I look at it and I'm like, I don't want to see Rey do everything that Luke should have done. Like, I don't want to see Rey build a Jedi temple. I don't want to see Rey, I don't want to see that. Like, because I should have got that from Luke, and I should have got new adventures with Rey.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, so then the last one we really have as far as new content is the one that I have to be honest. I was in my retail store at the time, and I literally started dancing around screaming with happiness. But it's Ahsoka has been announced as a show in the vein of Mandalorian. Favreau and Filoni, of course. I can't imagine Filoni allowing that character to go to anybody else. And I feel like they already teased us a little bit about what this show is about with the Ahsoka episode, because she talks about how her real nemesis, her real focus is Thrawn. And I have a lot of friends who are freaking out, like, please, Mandalorian should not be dealing with Thrawn. And they were all angry that Thrawn was now the big bad of Mandalorian and stuff. Well, guess what? He's not. It doesn't look like he is. It looks like he's the big bad of a different show, which is Ahsoka. And so I am super excited. I think that, oh man, I forgot her name suddenly. Did a good job in a single episode as Ahsoka. Rosario Dawson. I felt like, and we talked about this when we reviewed that episode, like there wasn't enough for me to make a clear decision how good she is as Ahsoka yet, right? Like, we didn't get enough, especially there was a lot more action than dialogue and that sort of thing to get a real gauge. But I'm just excited I'm a big Ahsoka fan. I've been a big Ahsoka fan. I am excited for more Ahsoka. I think there's more to explore with her character. I think we got her in 3 different stages, or we'll have her in 3 different stages now. We had her in her youth, obviously, with Anakin. We had her more as like a young woman, kind of at her prime, her peak in Rebels. And now we're going to get her kind of, I don't want to say in decline, but she's kind of the more aged, wise, kind of where we meet, say, Mace Windu in the prequel trilogy kind of place for her life, right? And so I think I'm excited to see what they do with her. I'm excited for Thrawn to come back. I think he's a great villain. I think this could be the thing that actually has the New Republic distracted away from what the First Order is doing, because Thrawn could be as big a threat, right? So
yeah, I think she did a great job. I've heard some people complain, and this is a nitpick, that her voice she didn't sound like Ahsoka, but we've had the same voice actor for Ahsoka for almost a decade plus at this point or whatever. So I think that's going to be the getting used to, but she did a great job. And I think the things I was concerned about was her physical abilities, and I didn't notice a lot of jump cuts or anything like that. So I was fine with it. I think that I always knew that once they mentioned Thrawn, it was pretty much a setup. It was a pilot for her show. That's what it was. She's a popular character. She is the anti-Rey, as we've seen her develop, train, and kind of earn her abilities, right? And she fits the narrative now of trying to show more strong female characters. Right, which is great, because this is a character I would actually set my daughter down and be like, oh, look at her training, look at her hardships, look at how she had to deal with her heart being broken or failing, or her family not living up to her expectations, but she's still trying to make her own destiny. Like, these are things that make a character. It doesn't matter what gender they are, they make a character. And so I think that, and Dave Filoni loves her. I think the fact that Dave Filoni loves her is probably the biggest fear I have of this character. That this character almost has a lot, so too much plot armor, because Dave Filoni.
Yeah, that is the danger for sure, is that she's I mean, I can't even imagine the journey he's been on with this character, where he's the one that kind of introduced her.
She's his Mickey Mouse. She's his Mickey Mouse, or his Mary Poppins, or whatever. This is his child, right? It's really hard to write your child being killed, or you know. And I haven't heard interviews about this or anything. I'm just going off.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, we kind of saw that with George Lucas, right? You get too close to the material, it can be kind of hard for you to stretch a little bit. So, yeah, I agree. I hope that this is her final chapter, and I hope it ends well. That's what I would say.
Well, the thing is that they skimmed around it by saying she was no longer a Jedi. But then I saw an interview this week where he said now she is a Jedi. So I'll stop being a Jedi. That way Yoda wasn't wrong and I wasn't hunted down. All right, that's over now. I'm a Jedi.
Yeah.
and then if they don't get rid of the sequels, Kylo Ren kills all the Jedi. Oh, I stopped being a Jedi. I retire. So that's kind of what I'm fearing. Like a good character. It's kind of like when you role play. Like
I would be sad about that actually, because I like that she decided I'm neither. Essentially, there's a certain, she took control of her life is the best way I felt about that decision, right? And you see that even in the end of Clone Wars, is like she kind of becomes her own person and is no longer the Jedi Council's person, right? And so,
right. And again, it's one of those workarounds where, I mean, so now in lore, we know, like, what was Yoda thinking? Like, was Yoda just lying? Like, and I realize we've had to MacGuffin that a little bit. Well, Ezra's a Padawan. He's not a full Jedi. Okay, all right. Ahsoka wasn't a Jedi at this point. The guy from the games isn't a Jedi at this point. Like, really?
Yeah, the whole, like, I don't even know what to do. Maybe Obi-Wan will address that a little bit, right?
Maybe you can write around it with great writing and things like that. It's just that
because they need to do something.
Yeah, like, or Yoda be like, "Oh, I'm not perfect. My bad. I was trying.
I've been on the swamp planet. I didn't know. No, nobody told me that there were more Jedi hanging out.
They don't call, these kids don't call no more. They don't write. haven't had a voice projection since where's Grogu? I ain't hear from Grogu in a minute. Stealing little bastard. He said he'd be right back. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, my point is that good characters, when you go through sagas that take place over 1,000 years, they also deserve good deaths, you know. And I don't think we realize that a lot, and it'll be sad, but like, especially if you want to keep the sequel trilogy, which I really hope they don't. I know this is a far off long shot.
I don't think they'll get rid of it. They didn't get rid of the prequel trilogy, so.
Well, the prequel trilogy is not a problematic. The prequel trilogy story
seemed problematic at the time.
No, well, I can't speak for you, but for me, the direction, the execution of the prequel trilogy,
sure.
The story was okay.
For me, there's a mindset I had pre-watching Clone Wars and a mindset I had post-watching Clone Wars, and they were two very different mindsets about the prequel trilogy.
Well, Clone Wars makes it so it's hard to go back and actually watch the prequel trilogies.
It does.
It's hard to go back and watch Hayden Christensen. It's hard to watch Hayden Christensen. Because they're really two different characters. Like they're and I'm glad he's coming back. I'm glad that him and Obi-Wan, him and Ewan McGregor, they're a good age. And I think a lot of his acting problems were directions. I think they were directing problems, not really his acting problems. I think he got a raw deal with that, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my biggest fear is he loves Ahsoka too much. She's gone through all this stuff. She has no external war wounds. And now I'm seeing the PR machine turn again on social media. Oh, could Ahsoka beat was Ahsoka more powerful than Anakin? Is Ahsoka more powerful than da da da? No. I saw one that said something like she could beat Mace Windu at this point, and it was like, no, just stop.
Ahsoka's like, you know how like the modern Supergirl was like trained by Batman, trained by Wonder Woman, but had the powers of Superman. That's like Ahsoka as well, like trained by Anakin, but you know, also by Obi-Wan, and like she kind of Yeah. Anyways, I do want Ahsoka and Luke. Now that we know this is live action, there's a strong case, I think, for a Luke recast, because one meeting I really do want is Ahsoka and Luke.
I think we all see it. It's gold to show this is what your father was like before. You know, that's also a good place you could actually have.
And they were both on the same kind of belief and mission and vision, right?
Mm-hmm. And you could have a Hayden Christensen Force Ghost come at this point too, which would be really powerful as well, because the brother and sister bond of Ahsoka and Anakin was really strong. Like, I think that's the actual true love story of the Clone Wars, not really Anakin and Padme.
Oh, for sure.
But the brother and please keep it brother and sister love of Ahsoka. And no, because I see people ship things a lot, and it wasn't that kind of love.
That's the wrong ship.
It wasn't that kind of love. It was a brother sister, and people go with father daughter, but it really wasn't.
That comes from that trauma of Padme scooping him when he was young.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot you can do with it. They've showed they can choreograph like I mean that her and this her lightsaber combat in this was better than everything in the sequels. Rosario Dawson's great. I want to see her. She bought a real droid recently that carries her luggage. Apparently, see that clip of her? Yeah. So yeah, look at her good. She has a real droid now. So I mean, I don't know. I think it'll be great. Like I said, my only fear is that we're gonna need an end at this point, right? We're gonna need a definite end of her character.
I don't think, she doesn't have to I don't know. Does every character have to die heroically? Can she just die on a age-old
died
bed?
peacefully.
Yoda died peacefully.
Yoda's the only peaceful death in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes, he's the only peaceful death in Star Wars. No, I guess Luke does now. Luke and Yoda.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's Ahsoka. So there's a couple of questions I had to wrap it up. Number one, this is going to be, I'm glad you're here. Does this in any way, just this announcement and all these things we just talked about, does this in any way change your feelings, sentiment about Kathleen Kennedy heading Star Wars?
No, but I'm in the camp that I think she was working with a lot of directives, right? And she really signed on to Lucasfilms to direct Indiana Jones. That's what she wanted to do. And she gets to do that now because they're announcing this last one. I think that she had a clear directive. I think the one of the reasons why Ahsoka is going to get a lot of push is because she's a female character. But she's a really well-developed female character, right? And I have no issues with that, so don't get in that. But I think it's one of those things where her passions were in different places above the story. And I think that if you wanted to do I think that if they just didn't do 7, 8, 9 and did their own trilogy before or way after, I think they would have ran into a lot of the problems. I think that the thing that's bringing us back is that they're paying homage to the myth, not just lip service, but real hard homage to the mythos that's built up before.
Well, the things we love, the one thing I keep thinking about is Boba Fett coming back. I'm not a huge Boba Fett fan, but I had an uncle who was a big Boba Fett fan, and I know other people that are big Boba Fett fans, and they've been waiting a long time for attention and love. And I'm sure you were crazy excited about Jango Fett, and then he was not really all that. And so finally Boba Fett gets his due. And so I kind of felt as much as we crash on the sequel trilogy at times, I kind of feel like Han got a decent due in Force Awakens.
But that's because he was being played by Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford had his star power, and
anyways, but yeah.
Right.
So I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying that these characters are treated with both reverence but also excitement that we all felt about them. As kids, especially original trilogy characters, because I think people forget, especially younger people forget how long we went with nothing but those 3 movies. That's all we had.
And those 3 movies. Every holidays they were on. Every iteration of media came out, we got them. Just so
one reason we watched those movies over and over again is it's all we had. It's not like you could had also this whole show of Clone Wars or something to watch as well.
Nope. And you could retell every line from those movies, you know, and every scene, and you built up a mythos in your head. So I think part of it is that we had a mythos in our head that we put in it, but then you also had like 30 years of books that filled in gaps for us. And, you know, and were all the books great? No, but there were some really great stories. And I think that when you come to Boba Fett again, so before you had, and again, even the first season, I liked Mandalorian, but it was always a part of my head is like, I should be watching a Boba Fett show. I'm watching a Boba Fett character, you know, like that just doesn't have his name. And so like, why am I doing that? And you see the mindset of the studio switch to, instead of just outdoing Boba Fett or making it so we are lessening Boba Fett to push up this other character, we could push up this other character and still pay homage to the mythos. Doesn't mean they're always going to be winning or they're always going to, but just still like, you don't have to lessen them to make another character great. They can both be great characters.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I think that when they, like, I'm really scared that Boba Fett dies and then Jaren gets his ship. Because I don't think we realized how popular he was going to be. But I'm just happy that we got him. I'm just really happy that we got him. And
like really got him. Like not like a quick little cameo or whatever, but like you've gotten 2 solid episodes of Boba Fett action. So
and he wasn't a buffoon. He wasn't lessened in his old age. You know what? If Luke got like just a smidgen of that respect in those movies, I don't think I'd be such a hater right now.
Yeah. So which of these are you most excited about? Like which stood out? Or let me ask you 2 things. Which were you most excited about, and which one kind of surprised you and came out of nowhere for you that now you're excited about?
So that's kind of a 3, because what surprised me was we didn't get any mention of Bo-Katan series or anything like that. Like I thought we were going to get something like that. So I'm guessing that's going to be rolled into Mandalorian, I'm guessing, or something. I guess what I'm most excited about is I think the one I'm going to be paying more attention to is probably going to be the Obi-Wan series. I guess that's going to be the one that I'm going to be more anxious about to see. Ahsoka, I just assume is going to be good, right? I assume it's going to be a good show. I have no worries or anxieties. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride or whatever it is.
Right.
I think that I think I'm all over the place. Rogue, the Rogue Squadron one, it played me. It's what they were going for, but her thing about her dad and everything, it worked. It worked for me. I'm there for it. I'm gonna give it the shot that because I wasn't asking for the show. I'm gonna give it a shot. The one I am not really sure about is Lando. Oh no, I think the Lando is going to be fun. It's going to be some kind of fun adventure. The Acolyte one, any High Republic, and I think they're also doing a High Republic cartoon somewhere too.
Yeah, they didn't. I thought that I had heard that as well, but that wasn't part of all their announcements. So that's interesting. Yeah. I wonder if it won't be on Disney Plus or something, and so they didn't want to, like what if it's on a different service or somewhere like Netflix even or something, and so. Because a lot of it was an investor meeting, right? So they're trying to get investors excited.
The other thing is we don't know which really, because like a lot of things they didn't have any sketches of what they were trying to do. So are we really going to get all of these? And again, we didn't say anything about the Rian Johnson series, which they've kept on. Yeah,
that's a good point. That we still don't know what's going on with that. So that's a.
I mean, we don't know officially. Yeah, because we got to a debate in the chat about this.
Exactly.
And in my mind, I don't see them actually doing it. I think it'd be a foolish thing because whether you love that movie or not, it's divisive. It's It's bringing too much.
Which is a shame because I think he would do better with his own trilogy. Like I think he'd be
with guidelines that you have to fit this story. If you have to fit this story, I don't think he's a bad director. Dave Filoni gave him some shine recently where he said. I was his Padawan, like he taught him a bunch of lenses and things like that. So I think there's something there. But to me, with the situation Disney's in now, I would stay away from the sequels. I would stay away from Ryan Johnson, I would stay away from him. Just let the fans enjoy this thing that we like. Mandalorian, we all enjoy it. We all enjoy it, no matter what era you grew up in, no matter what you like. We're all enjoying this. Let us enjoy it. Heal these wounds before you start ripping them open again and doing your own thing.
So do you think this takes the weight off of Mandalorian? Because it seems like one of the things I've been talking about a lot is like it feels like Mandalorian is carrying the weight of the entire Star Wars IP.
This sole season only really had 3 episodes dedicated to their story. like this has been a pilot. This has been a pilot season for other things, even a Boba Fett show, if the rumors are right. So, and I don't think it's a mistake that you brought Bill Burr back in the last one and humanized him, because he wasn't the exact same character he was in the first one. So I'd be really surprised if he doesn't come back in the Rangers one or something else. So this whole thing for Mandalorian was a pilot for other Disney stuff. This was to get ready for this investors meeting. And when they turn off the cameras, like, look, these characters are trending really well. This character's we can do this because look at these episodes. They were all pilots. I'm not knocking them. Everything they showed could be good.
Going forward, it doesn't have to be that way now because there will be these other things carrying all that weight. Like, we don't need to learn anything about Jedi anymore in Mandalorian. And in fact, if Ahsoka is the character that is Filoni's baby, the Mandalorian people are kind of like Filoni's. Ahsoka's his character, then the Mandalorian people are like his, I don't know, his planet, his setting, right? And so maybe the title Mandalorian, maybe we get way more in depth with just Mandalorian culture and that kind of stuff. And it can do that because there's these other shows now carrying the weight of other aspects of Star Wars in a way that there hasn't been before.
I've seen a lot of like fan theories about like Boba Fett becoming the new Mandalore, and that's the reason why they instead of like before they ostracized Boba Fett, now they're like, oh no, he's a Mandalorian, like he's a heritage, and he's looked down upon because he's not from the planet Mandalore. So you have stories there. And if Bo-Katan's not getting her own series, the whole taking back a Mandalore and all that stuff, and the whole way the different connecting the clans and stuff could all be really great series. I mean, really great television. I think that what I'm curious is, will they take the chance of separating him from Baby Yoda? Will they let Baby Yoda go off and actually get training?
I don't think so.
Or will they feel like, no, we're going to lose?
That seems really... I thought it was a big deal that Baby Yoda wasn't in this episode at all. Like, I thought even at the end we were going to get a little Baby Yoda segment.
Teaser.
It wasn't in this episode at all. I thought that was very smart directorially because it makes you feel the lack and missing of Baby Yoda, of Grogu. But I can't imagine this show not having Grogu in it. He is too important.
If you experiment a little bit more and have more of it focused on the Mandalorians and not bringing this kid into battle, you could, if you're in the Ahsoka show, you could have Sabine, Ahsoka. You could have, what was the Jedi in that show? Not Ezra, but Kanan. Kanan's kid is alive in this era, and he's like probably 10 now.
I didn't even know Kanan had a kid.
All right, the Rebels.
Or maybe there was. I can't remember. It's been so long since. Was that the very end?
So in the Rebels, they fast forward past Return of the Jedi.
I remember the end.
And you see Hera flying a ship and then teaching her son to fly. That's Kanan's kid, right? So that's right after Return of the Jedi. This is 5 years after that. So the kid's like 8 or 10, right? Yeah. So you could have Ahsoka train Kanan.
That could be the pilot of. That kid could be the pilot for Rogue Squadron.
Or he could be a pilot. He doesn't have to be a Force sensitive, but you could do stuff with that. You could have Guru over there with Ahsoka. If you do recast Luke, you could have Guru and Luke.
You could jump between shows, and in that way, so that's an interesting idea. But I don't think Grogu disappears forever.
No, I don't think that. But I think that hopefully the Mandalorian can expand past.
Yeah,
hope Mandalorian can expand past needing Baby Yoda there.
Yes, that's fair. I don't think it can, but that's fair to want that. All right, cool.
I live in hope, Patrick. I live in hope.
Any last thoughts you wanted to say before we close this up?
I just want to be happy. I want to feel like I'm living in the golden age.
It gave me joy. It gave me joy. I was full of joy. Honestly, Mandalorians are giving me a lot of joy. Everybody who's so critical, like for me, Star Wars is all about fun. We can talk about like I have different feelings about shows like Star Trek. Star Trek for me isn't about fun a lot of times, but Star Wars for me, like if it makes me smile and get excited and get on the edge of my seat, I'm on board, right?
I want to dust off a purple lightsaber, hang it proud. I want to finish my Mandalorian armor, and I want to go to cons.
You're way more into that part of the. So
I want to be happy to be a Star Wars fan. That's all I really want to do. And right now, my heart's still broken. Like Star Wars, the sequels broke my heart. Now you can disagree with me about how good they are and all this other stuff, and but I'm not a misogynist. I don't hate strong women. But they broke the story. Broke they broke my heart in what they did to canon.
I did not like The Last Jedi. However, I did not like the divisiveness that The Last Jedi brought to us. It like pretty much killed all of my momentum and excitement and fandom for Star Wars. Was just you couldn't even talk about the movie anymore.
Well, this
without
is the thing.
Arguments.
This is the thing. I love being able to theorize and guess about the mysteries of the Force universe. And Last Jedi killed that. I didn't care what happened next. And now even with Mandalorian, I'm like, oh, well, what does this mean? And what does this mean? How does it connect to this? And how does it connect to this? And that's what I love. That's what I love. And
it's because you're a comic book reader,
right? And so I want to dip my toe back in the pool. I want to go in the dating pool again. But my heart was broken, Patrick. My heart was broken. I don't know if I open myself up to another era of Star Wars again. But I want to, Patrick. I want to feel the love.
Well, we'll find out, right?
Yeah,
we'll find out. There's a lot of potential. We're in that moment. We've been through this before, man. I remember sitting around talking about like the excitement for Attack of the Clones and being completely wrecked by that movie. So we've been through this before. Hopefully, don't let us down. Don't let us down, Filoni and Favreau especially.
Because not, we will fight. No.
No. And Filoni, you don't have to still wear that hat. It's okay. You can grow up. You don't need that hat no more. All right, cool. Well, thanks for doing this, Anthony. Thanks for coming on. It was fun. It was like just hanging out, old school in the J building, talking Star Wars. So
yeah, good times. Good times. All right, people. Thanks.
Bye.